Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and we're doing a little bit of a bonus review today. I usually do not do these things on Saturdays because it's usually a day, but it is so damn cold in Huddersfield. I'm expecting to be a pretty quiet start to my day. Throw into that the fact that next week there is just a phenomenally large amount of Marvel stuff coming out. It feels like it wouldn't really do too much harm to talk about the new Daredevil spin-off. And when I say spin-off, I mean, 3-issue miniseries. Another of those things that I very rarely bother reviewing just because it feels like it's not a jumping on point, it's not a start, it's not something that's where I can tell people, yes, this is where you want to start reading it. It's effectively just an interlude in the very of Daredevil that Chip Zdarsky has been doing. But it's been such a good run that I don't feel too bad. I don't feel like I'm taking up too much of your time on this one. For people who want a little bit of context, Zdarsky has been writing Daredevil for a few years. Part of his story has been the Elektra Nachos has taken over as Daredevil. And then there's the Devil's Reign event that's happening as he's paused his ongoing to do with the fact that Wilson Fisk wants to become president, I think now, instead of as mayor, and the Avengers and various New York-based superheroes are going to put Luke Cage up in against him. Brilliant little idea, fantastic fun. But while all that's going on, Elektra has got her own thing happening because Wilson Fisk, being Wilson Fisk, has kept files on like so many costume vigilantes and superheroes just in case he ever needs to use anything against them. The Daredevil got completely removed because of what happened with the Purple Man and the Purple Man's kids, I think, if I remember rightly. But he still has Elektra's, and he set somebody onto Elektra to basically distract her and keep her out because she is now Daredevil. That's pretty much all you need to know going in. There's a little bit, I think, I can't remember if it's either in Devil's Reign or at the end of Daredevil, where we find out exactly who it is that they've sent after Daredevil. I'm going to say Daredevil to refer to Elektra now, which is going to be easier. The thing is, this comic book then spends most of the issue kind of building up to that. I'm trying to figure out who it is, but we all know who it is because we've read that issue that came out 2 weeks ago or whatever. It feels like a very strange, odd choice to make. Now, maybe this is an editorial thing where it's just come down to the release schedule, and when Zdarsky was writing this, he wasn't planning on having an announcement about who it was, and it could have been built up and then revealed here, but it still feels like an odd way of doing things. But before we get into that too much, we're going to talk about the artwork, because I've forgotten the guy's name again. Delator is a really good artist, and I've spent most of this comic book absolutely adoring the artwork. There's so many shots of just Elektra in costume walking around as Daredevil with the ribbons part of the costume blowing in the wind and her hair moving, and it's just so dynamic and beautiful. I absolutely love it. The fight scenes are brilliant. There's no reliance on motion lines. The artist just trusts us to see what where the motion is based on how people are standing and how they're falling, where, again, Elektra's ribbons and hair are moving. Everything comes together in just absolute perfection for the most part. But then there's some bits where he wants to really show darkness and shadow, something which has always been a part of the Daredevil world, and I really appreciate it. Phil Noto's take on it really didn't have that, and it really bugged the snot out of me. But it feels like they may have set themselves a little bit too much work and a bit too much darkness and shadow and didn't necessarily have the time for it. And sometimes it looks like it's been done with just a really thick pen, like a Sharpie or something, and it kind of takes away a little bit. I can deal with like some quite scratchy lo-fi art styles. Quite often that's the kind of art style I talk about in very glowing terms, but it feels out of place in the rest of the comic. It doesn't feel like it ties in as a uniform art style. I actually, when I hit page 4 or 5, I went back to the credits to see if there's been like a different person doing different pages. It happens every once in a while. It's not that unusual when you have deadlines and artists working on multiple things, but it's the same guy who's doing the penciling and the inking throughout. It's the same artist doing both jobs, and it just kind of sets it off a little bit that it's not quite right. Now, this is basically saying that 98.7% of the art in here is absolutely brilliant. Highly recommended. Go and check it out. But once you get that tiny little bit wrong, it kind of throws me a little bit. But that being said, everything else is fantastic. The writing especially so. Zdarsky is already like one of my favorite writers. He's been doing what he's doing so effectively. A lot of what I could say about it, I've said before when talking about Daredevil and other things he's worked on. But there's a flashback element to this comic book where Elektra is trying to figure out who's after her. We already know. But this means she goes back to the university she went to, the law school where she met Matt Murdock. And a lot of it then goes to flashback of her, like, overseeing her life. And some of this is ripped straight from the pages of Miller's Daredevil, and it's brilliant the way that the artistry kind of marries the two together. But storytelling-wise, it really works effectively too. There's no jarring leaps backwards and forwards. They don't rely on things like color palette shift or anything like that. It just comes about as part of the storytelling. They don't need any tricks to be like, and now we're into flashback. It's just like, oh, this is now a flashback bit, that bit's done, now back to contemporary and modern day. Everything works so well. All these pieces fit together so effectively to tell a really good story that I don't feel all bad taking up a little bit of time on your Saturday to tell you that this is brilliant, even though it is an interlude in a far larger story. It is good enough that it's worth your time. That's it from me today, though. I'm going to be back on Tuesday with probably at least 2 videos. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.